26th of August 25, it's Tuesday, and today the Reform UK Party in Britain have announced Operation Restoring Justice, which is basically about illegal migration, how they're going to treat it in the future if they're a government. Basically, they're going to detain everyone, they're going to remove everyone, etc. A lot of things. I mean, to me, it's all obvious stuff you should be doing if you're trying to protect your borders, but we've totally gone the other way in our society. I think it's partly because of the left being ultra woke, and the Tories have gone along with the wokeness as well, so not to look bad. And it's ended up everyone's afraid to talk about it at all. So this would be really common sense. I mean, you could probably even do these things just now if you were treating the law correctly, but yeah, but it's very welcome, I see it just as a start, really, but it's a good start. It's common sense. I mean, Anne Widdecombe said when she was I thought, she was a Home Office Minister back in the mid-90s, she said we need to detain everyone. It's common sense. Detain everyone that's basically broken into the country. But she said she had no chance of getting that through. She was seen as called names and stuff, probably, and even in the mid-90s it was common sense. It really has been the way since the start, really, just after the World War II. But yeah, so I'm looking at the reforms thing. I watched this earlier on, so I watched it. It's pretty good. I get the feeling that it's Zia's project, it's Zia Youssef's real project. I see it as a good start. It's an Overton window shift. At the moment, I would say to everyone, vote reform, because it's the only protest vote you've got. Treat every election as a referendum. Get out there for council by-elections if you're blessed to have a council by-election, because we get so few chances to vote, and when we vote, we have to vote for a party hamper, so you need to vote for all sorts of things that they're telling you what they're going to do, and a lot of the stuff they don't do anyway, and they do other stuff. So, I mean, I'm totally against party hampers, as I've said. Let's see. Yeah, they made the actual thing was a sort of against this as well. I mean, I'm not against it, but it doesn't really make a difference to me. But yeah, so I had a glimpse at the start. This is
Good morning, everybody.
It's really...
Today we launch Operation Restoring Justice. And as far as the people of this country is concerned, frankly, these measures can't come soon enough. As you know, we've been running over the course of the last 6 weeks our very successful crime campaign. It's seen us rise further in the polls. It's seen great new recruits, Vanessa Frake and Colin Sutton, joining our party. And today is the last instalment of that campaign ahead of our party conference in Birmingham.
So I'm just looking at the Reform YouTube channel. They've got 109k subscribers. That's not very many, really. I would have expected more than that. And this has got 28,000 views, which is like 10 hours. That's not very many either, because some of the just the YouTubers get like, I don't know, 500,000 in a day or something. So it's not that many. I don't know why that is, because I'm a big supporter of these big announcements weekly. Reform have been doing weekly conferences, things on YouTube. I'm totally in favour of them. You've got to keep in touch with your viewers. Although I would say most people are working and won't see them. So, the workers are working. But the ones that aren't working, especially retired or whatever, because they make up a big chunk of the voters for a start. Like I said, voting should be at the weekend anyway, or it should be e-voting, actually, which would do away. It wouldn't matter what day you had to vote then. It should be e-voting, and you should be able to change your vote up to the last second. Whereas with postal voting, which a lot of people are turning to now, which I agree with, once you've put your postal vote in, that's it. You can't change your mind, you know. So you're watching these debates, you've already put your postal vote in. But apparently, most people who get a postal vote, they vote in the first week that they get it. So I'll just look and put my thoughts to this. But anyway, it's a good start anyway. Someone saying a truly great speech just get 34 likes. You got my vote, 54 likes. Journalists more bothered about the non-natives' rights than the natives. Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah, 108 likes. Vote reform save the country. That's the way we should be looking at it. Overton window, protest vote, referendum. Every time you get a chance, council by-election or whatever. There's 2 council by-elections this week. It's a chance for those areas to vote reform as an Overton window shift. You know, people argue that reform aren't doing enough on it, and they aren't. But it's a start, and of all we've got at the moment. Advance it a bit better. But I'm not a supporter of parties, but if I was voting, it would either be Advance UK or Reform. My preference would be Advance UK. You know, up in Scotland, when we do the Holyrood elections, we get a constituent vote and we get a regional vote. And for the regional vote, I would be Advance UK for sure, yeah. For the constituent, I might be Reform, just because they might have a chance of actually winning the first past the post part of it. So yeah, I get the feeling this is a year's project, you know, this sort of stuff, you know, and this is to do with illegals, or as Labour call them, irregulars, as the government now call them. I mean, another way you could call them gate crashers, I don't know, but that's a sort of, you know, still the legacy media is doing with to feel sympathy. That's what I feel. There was a great talk last night by Professor David Bates and 2 other professors on this subject. I can't remember what they called their channel, Risky Scientists or something like that. It's really worth listening to that. It was the best sort of discussion I've heard on this. Well, I say the best. There's been quite a few over the last year, you know. Before that, there was almost zero because everyone was too afraid. Even Nigel Farage last year was asked on GB News, is he afraid that some tweet he could get arrested over some tweet? And he said yes, you know, and rightly so. At that time, that was amid. Yeah, so yeah, I think a general election should be called now because Labour they've got no mandate really. They get 33% of the vote, which is the lowest ever, I think. Only 59% voted. That's the lowest ever as well. And in the polls just now, they're about 20% or 22, 23%. One had about 18%. You know, I don't think they have a mandate to last 5 years. They don't even have a mandate to. They get 66% of the MPs from that 33% of the vote of 59% of voters. That's just not acceptable, really, as a democracy. I think we should have the Swiss electoral system where we're voting on issues all the time, rather than referendums all the time, rather than voting for party hampers. So let's look. Here's my note. I'm using Google Keep here. I had a go at trying to use a drawing again, and actually it's called Restoring Justice. And I wonder if they used that name. I think it's a poor name for it because people won't know what they're talking about. It should actually be something like Operation Sensible Borders, something like that. And I wonder if they called it Restoring because of Rupert Lowe's Restore UK party, you know, they sort of maybe try to overdo him, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But I think it's a poor name, and so it's called Restoring Justice. And they've called it an operation name as well. I'm happy for they call it that because it means that we get a you know, overall view of it. Rupert's done an ex post and he's scathing about it, and rightly so. When I say rightly so, it's okay what they're saying. It's it's sensible, but we should be a lot more further on than that. And really, I don't think you can think it's about illegals or irregulars anymore, you know. But that's a good start anyway. Nigel said this was probably impossible last year. They're talking about mass removal, mass reversal of illegals, which is common sense. You know, they should be detained, etc. I mean, it's all common sense stuff. It should have been always the norm, really. I don't know how we got to where we are. So Overton window's really shifting, because this is a mainstream party finally talking about this. You can finally talk about this and not be arrested, which is incredible, because even the Tories were woke, and all the public sector was woke. The police, the justice system, everything was totally woke, including David Cameron and all that. You know, even Boris Johnson. I mean, he was the worst for changing the country, the waves. You know, so yeah, I'll take a look at Gemini, see what it's saying. Yeah, the main points according to Gemini, I always find them just slightly biased, slightly woke biased. So the main points, they're saying the mass word there, but they're actually talking about illegals, irregulars. So it's not really. It is because there's so many illegals and irregulars, but it's not talking about you know, the way the country's changing. We have to think of it as a utopia. If you think it's going to be a utopia, you won't get arrested or anything. You know, the police don't view that dimly. As I say, the police are woke, and what needs to be done there is all you need to do is, for the police, all you need to do is put in a "how did I do" questionnaire, which can be done by mobile phone every time you have interaction with them, and then it's got a comment, but because then you're going to up the standards greatly, I think, if that's what the police want to do. But it feels at the moment that's not what they want to do. They just want to be left alone and do the way they do it, you know. So they're talking about this mass thing, but it's not really what they're talking about. Illegals, really, over a 5-year period. So they're making a big project, yeah. But Rupert says you need to do even more than that. It's not even enough. This is a good bit, leaving international conventions. Yeah, I've thought this a long time. We really need to leave the 1951 one, because it was made for World War II, where you're able to look after neighbouring countries. And we've sort of done that with Ukraine, even though it's quite far away. I would say that is pushing the limit a little bit, because you're talking about differences in attitudes and things. I mean, I think of Ukraine as the West, actually. But when I actually see Ukraine, it's got, you know, attitudes. I suppose you're going down that Orthodox Christianity line, then you're seeing a difference in attitude, you know. Because I would say, because it's not just about one thing, it's about attitude, really. So it is weird, because you've got Russia and East Europe. They've got different ways, which are quite different to the West, because the West seems to be the only place where people want to move to. So I think they're going from low trust to high trust, from intolerant to tolerant, and there's not that many really desirable countries by the looks of it. But it does include Japan and South Korea, so it goes to show you it's not just of one type. And if you look at Japan, after World War II, they were our mortal enemy. And now, not only did they become one of the most desirable countries to live in the world, they also became the second biggest economy for a long time, and they still are one of the biggest. I mean, the biggest economies should just be the ones that are most populous, and that's starting to happen now with China and India. But it looks like economy-wise, there's still not places that people want to move to. You know, you don't hear Corbynista, the daughters of Corbynistas moving to universities in China and India, you know, and their parents being delighted. You know, because we've been taught that the people coming to the West, it's for economic opportunities, but I don't think that actually is. Because every country in the world should be flourishing economically and should be desirable to live in. Probably the only reason we should be moving is to beautiful warm countries. That doesn't seem to be the case. So then you need to ask, what is it? What's going on? You know. So anyway, leaving international conventions, 1951. Yeah, I think you need to rewrite that. You know. So what else are they leaving? could withdraw from the European Convention on Human Rights. Yeah, definitely. I think even the Tories are talking about that, or pausing it at least. Yeah. And repeal the Human Rights Act. I think that was a late Tony Blair thing. Yeah, we need to do that. It's so that judges can't misinterpret it, you know, because this is how law acts at the moment. One judge, all it takes is one judge judging it in a certain way, because there's a lot of activist judges now. We've got juries that find people that seem to be obviously guilty, find them not guilty. You know, we don't know why. We're not told any information about the juries. I think we need to be, because justice needs to be seen to be done. In the old days, people just trusted the juries, really, in general, even though we got things wrong, like the Birmingham Six, etc. But yeah, nowadays I think everyone's thinking, well, we don't know how this jury's made up, not just politically, in another way as well. And there's a lot of countries around the world that people don't want to, the people there don't want to live in. It seems it's seen that the Old West was high trust. Is that changing now? You know, what about traffic lights? Do people stop at traffic lights all the time now? Anyway, so they also stated that they would disapply the 1951 Refugee Convention and UN Convention against Torture. Yeah, for 5 years or something, I think they said. Personally, I think you just pause it and just scrap it, really. I think Advance UK are going to said they're going to do that already. Barring all claims from those who arrive without permission. Yeah, basically everyone that comes illegally, almost nobody should get the right to stay. Apparently, from Afghanistan, about 99%, I think it's more than that, over the last few years have got to stay. Whereas when it was Labour's Tony Blair, it was about 46% got to stay, you know. So Tories were even worse on it than Thingy. And I think the two things that have changed is, like, they had Tony Blair and that, but already the country had changed beyond recognition already before that. Maybe not Scotland so much, but other places. But I had a bit of Scotland actually. But the two things that have happened since then is Tony Blair freed it up, yeah. But the Boris wave, Brexit made it even worse, because the Boris wave, he changed the migration pattern, and we actually get hardly any from the EU. Although the way the people were doing it then was they were coming from countries, they were getting into the EU because there was a connection between their country and, say, Portugal or Holland or whatever. And then after maybe 5 years, they became an EU citizen and they would move to Britain. So, but it was about sort of 90% from EU. I'm just making that number up. But after Brexit, it's now 90% are coming from out with the EU. Basically, they're just coming straight from the countries. That was Boris that's done that, you know. Keir's continued it. So, yeah. So now talking about illegals, yeah, that sort of thing. So they're leaving international conventions. Yeah, I think Tony Blair brought in he was right. But it wasn't just Tony Blair and Boris, etc. It was also the internet and the mobile phones thing, because as soon as these people get mobile phones and that, they were finding the paths for irregular movement. I mean, we've just had a sob story about some guy from Somalia recently, and his story was, he said his sister was murdered by bad people there, a bad group, and he said they wanted him to join. I don't know about all that, but even ignoring all that, somebody got him a visa for Turkey, so he got to Turkey, he should claim asylum there or something. Why didn't he go to a neighbouring African country or whatever? Why did he rule them out completely? If so, why? What continents did he consider? But anyway, Turkey, he didn't stop there. He went to Greece, and then he moved up, and then he got a dinghy across to Britain, and now he finds himself in a hotel, and he's on ITV News or something saying that the people are scaring me with their protesting and stuff like that. You know, give us a chance. But why did he rule out Africa? Why Turkey, France, Greece? Why did he rule them out? You know, this is the sort of thing. But I think the whole thing is ridiculous anyway. I think almost everyone should not be able to, apart from neighbouring countries, if they're genuinely from that area, you're meant to help your neighbour out at this time. That's what it's meant to be. So for someone like him, it should be Africa. It should be helping him out, really. So they would disapply it. 51 convention. Yeah. Yep. Increased capacity. Yeah. The party pledged to scale up detention facilities to hold up to 24,000 migrants at a time. Yeah. Suggesting that unused RAF bases could be converted for this purpose. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, probably you need more than that, actually. Everyone that's in a hotel or who's in a, what do they call them, home of multiple occupancy, or even get their own place, and they're under that, they've claimed asylum or whatever. Like I say, I don't think anyone, that whole system should be scrapped anyway, but if you're going to have it, they should all be detained until it's been decided, etc. So, and it's going to have deals. Yeah, this is another thing. It's going to do deals with Afghanistan, Eritrea, and Iran, etc. And if they don't do deals, then they'll not allow visas from those countries, and they'll find other ways to punish them. Any aid, they'll stop aid, etc. So that's good. Yeah, and this is Zia that was making all these announcements. So Zia really is the person behind it. I mean, he's really against the regular stuff, which is fine, but I think we're going to go a bit further than that. I mean, he came up with that sort of idea where we're willing to give golden visas again to people from. I'm not in favour of that at all. And if these people are doing well, why don't they want to stay where they are? And what countries have they ruled out that they won't move to? Have they ruled out continents? What places have they ruled in? Why have they ruled those places in? You know, have they ruled in China or whatever? That sort of thing. And another suggestion is they might pay people to go, which I'm totally in favour of. I think Denmark do that already. I think Denmark have really stopped people coming in from asylum. So, that sort of thing. I'm looking at Grok here because I think it's a bit more honest on this issue, on these sort of issues. Yeah, Operation Restoring Justice, Reform UK's project announced by leader Nigel Farage on August 25, 2025, is named Operation Restoring Justice. It outlines a plan for mass of up to 600,000 over 5 years. Rupert Lowe says it will need to be like 2 million, and as Zia says, we don't even know how many are here illegally, you know, because he pointed out that Pakistan, I mean, they gave the asylum claims as like 120,000 last year, or from summer to summer. The biggest group, I think, is Pakistan, and 90% of them are overstays, and quite a lot of them are, quote, other as well. Hardly any of them are coming over by boat or whatever, or coming in sort of illegally. They're all overstays. You know, so they're maybe coming over for families and staying, all that. Maybe coming over as students and just staying. Visa overstays is probably the main issue to do with asylum, really. And that's just asylum. I mean, this group, I think, gross people who came to the UK over the last year was like 1.4 million. Asylum cases were like 110,000. So this is only like 10% of the cases, maybe not even that. A lot of people talk about net when they talk about that, but you've got to talk gross because that's newcomers. 1.4 million, because maybe 500 million Brits left for somewhere else, but that's probably going to be a certain type because you don't really get many Brits who have maybe come here and then moved back. I don't think you get many who do that really. So you're getting 1.4 million of new type of people who are going to become British citizens because they all really get citizenship. As I say, Afghans, it's like 99% will get citizenship or something like that. It really is plans for 600,000 focusing on arriving. So they're doing the small boats, but that's just a tiny thing, and it should be called dinghies. Dinghies it is. Dinghies that are designed to sink after one trip, and that's why the lifeboats are to go out and save them and not take them back. Actually, 'cause that's what you should do. Just take them back, see what happens. Key limits include barring claims for such arrivals. Yep. Detaining and deporting them immediately. Yep. Allocating 2 billion in aid or payments to countries like Afghanistan to accept returns. Yep. Because apparently Zia was saying this might cost 10 billion, but there'll be a saving in 17 billion. Some journalists said that Rupert Laws said it would cost about 40 billion, but I think this is the journalists sort of being woke as usual, legacy journalists really, and imposing sanctions on uncooperative nations. The initiative draws inspiration from Australian models to deter future irregular. It has faced criticism from Labour as unworkable and from Conservatives as recycled ideas amid rising dinghy crossings, not small boats. There's been 28,000 detected so far this year, up 46%. And of course, Keir Starmer said Operation Smash the Gangs. He's been an absolute disaster on it, but people still act as if he's competent. You know, this is one of the weird things in life. I mean, he's been totally incompetent on it. He couldn't be more incompetent, and yet people look at him as if he's a sensible guy or something, or he's competent. You know, he's nothing at all. Like, to me, he's like Trump-like really. Not even. I mean, Trump's just totally incompetent. But Keir's meant to be not like Trump, but competent. But he's actually just as incompetent, really. You know. And it is ironic because Trump's doing some socialist things, like he's taking a 10% government stake in Intel, you know, and he's done other really socialist things. Is ironic. So there's been record applications this year, 111,000. Like I say, I think Pakistan's the biggest country. 90% of them are overstays, visa overstays. I'm just checking what Labour MPs are saying about it. You know, to me they're totally out of touch with a big group of Brits who still vote them, and SNP and Lib Dem and Greens, just by a generational thing. I mean, they'll all switch to Reform, in my opinion, most of them. Yeah, Labour MPs are saying it will be unworkable, lacking detail. It doesn't matter at this point, really. They've given quite a few details, in my opinion, and a recycled set of failed Tory ideas, but Tories never really went through with them at all in any meaningful way. Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick would tell you that. Yeah, just so let's see. Ellie Reeves is saying, is this ex post probably? She highlighted the plan's superficiality, noting it was promised as a comprehensive strategy with timelines. She described it as a tired rehash of the Tories' approach. I don't think it is, actually, because I don't think the Tories did say detain or anything like that. Because everybody thinks what Labour's going to do is they're going to basically grant everyone the right to stay and become British citizens, and they're going to move them out of hotels and move them into homes of multiple occupancy, so on your street and that, things like that. You know, and they'll eventually get their own homes as well through the council. I've seen a few YouTube videos, you know, where gentlemen have shown their new homes, which are probably on housing benefit as well, you know. So, I mean, these sort of things, this is the sort of thing people hear on TikTok as well, so all these things really help for the dream, you know. I mean, I don't think people are coming here for economic reasons. They're coming here because they know we make a flourishing, because it's a high trust society and the people behave nicely in general. It means the economy flourishes as well, but that's just a side thing in a way. Anyway, the two things go together. Whereas I think that's really what brings them. It's not the economy itself, it's the freedom. I mean, there are things like things that Nicola Sturgeon or whatever, Yvette Cooper might not be so keen on, like FGM or whatever. That now is a British tradition, I would say. It wasn't, but it is now. But and someday MPs might support it, you know. So far that hasn't happened, but we've got new MPs that are talking about, you know, cousin marriage. We shouldn't just try and discourage it, you know. This is a new thing an MP was talking about. We could do genetic tests so that they can rule out bad things. Apparently that's what Qatar does or something, I don't know. Yeah, I bet Cooper, what she's saying, they magic up. Well, if you look at what they've done for COVID with the Nightingale hospitals and stuff, you know, if the government's got a will, it happens. And also, at the moment, our asylum thing is costing us more billions each year, you know, I don't know, is that about 7 billion, 8 billion now at the moment? I mean, he was trying to save, Keir was trying to save about 2 billion from the winter fuel payment, and yet he's paying about 10 billion on, or 7 billion on hotel bills and things. She accused the party of taking the public for fools. No, and she's going to lose her seat, by the way, to reform by offering bold rhetoric without addressing where they'd be held or sent. Yeah, hold them in detain camps. It's pretty simple. Implying the scheme is impractical and ignores it. Gregor Pointing, Labour MP for Livingston, in a GB News interview, Pointing acknowledged public frustrations but criticised reform's plans for poor attention to detail. I mean, it sounds as if the MPs have been told to go on about detail, you know, a sort of deflection thing, but it's not going to work, really. Because there was actually quite a lot of detail, I thought. And remember, at this stage, you've just got to give your general thing. And like we saw with COVID, they came up with Nightingale hospitals pretty quick, and Trump's come up with camps in Florida and stuff pretty quick. He's saying it's not one simple solution, it's a complex problem, so he's trying to deflect, really. He's saying it's a complex problem, including smuggling networks and rights, and fails to provide workable strategies. Yeah, he's just trying to deflect. Number 10 spokesperson condemned ECHR withdrawal aspect. Nah, it's silly. Nah, they're saying a Good Friday Agreement. That's probably nothing to do with it, really. Ripping up international agreements will only make it harder to manage migration, so they're just deflecting, really. I mean, if you can join international agreements, you can leave them as well, you know, if you're a country. Especially if they're nonsense, you know. Pro the Labour Party stance. Well, that's a lot of nonsense, I'm not even going to read it. Ethical and legal concerns, no. Labour worries, etc. So, yeah, I'm not really getting in to say about that. So, it's a good start. It's about irregulars. It seems to be Zia's project. They should be detained, absolutely. I've thought that all the time, you know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how we got so far left, so far woke, you know. I really don't know. And it seemed like it was just going to continue until about last year, maybe. Until maybe Elon Musk bought Twitter. And he's been doing a lot of X posts today with the English flag and stuff. I think he's putting on the pressure on Nigel Farage, etc. It is ironic because Nigel Farage said he met him last year and he seemed very sensible, Elon, and all that, you know, unlike a lot of very rich people. But he's totally turned against Nigel now. So, yeah, but it's fantastic because we've got Rubelo in advance who are going to pressure reform further, you know, because they'll probably go beyond irregulars. So that's good, and that's the way we should be. These three groups should be like what reform's offering on this should be what Jeremy Corbyn's party can offer and expect to get a vote, you know. Really, that's the sort of situation. So, yeah, it's a good start. Operation Restoring Justice, but it's a long way to go from that. And there's 2 council by-elections this week. Anyone who wants to show support for this can vote reform in those 2 elections. There's one in Camden where it's expected either the Greens will win or Labour again, but it's probably changed there. It might be Greens or Lib Dem. And I think it's the more affluent part of Camden and Broxtowe as well, which is expected to go to reform. Okay? Bye bye.